A group of soldiers were deep in the game of cards within a secluded military bunker. While one soldier expresses concern about potential discovery, the others reassure him, confident in their isolation. Suddenly, the tarp behind them rustled, catching one soldier's attention. Investigating further, they witnessed the bridge shaking violently and the tarp forcefully being ripped off, revealing a pulsating portal. In a flurry of action, the soldiers armed themselves, preparing for the unexpected. Just as one of the soldiers approached the portal, a strange object emerged, scanning her immediately. Without hesitation, the soldier picked up the object, but nothing occurred. Suddenly, a Jaffa emerged from the portal, using a soldier as a shield. Despite their efforts and pleas for the hostages' release, the soldiers find themselves outmatched. The intense battle ended tragically as the soldiers fell one by one, but not before managing to call for backup. With reinforcements arriving, General Hammond confronts the enemy commander, the glowing eyes reflecting before the retreat through the portal. Jack O'Neill is at home, stargazing, when Major Samuels visits him. The Major informs him that he was summoned for a meeting with General Hammond regarding the Stargate. Intrigued by the mention of the Stargate and despite his retirement, O'Neill wanted to hear more, and agreed to the meeting. O'Neill was led through a deep military bunker to meet with General Hammond. Hammond continued to show O'Neill one of the dead bodies of the Jaffa and told him whatever these aliens were, they came through the portal, killed 4 of their men, and kidnapped another using alien weapons. Weapons they couldn't figure out how to use. O'Neill was handed the weapon and immediately knew how to use it. He informed them there was no such creatures with scars on their stomachs on Abydos, the planet he was on. They were humans brought there by Ra, thousands of years ago. Hammond asks about Ra. O'Neill tells him that Ra was an alien symbiote living inside a human body. Hammond inquired about the mission report, where O'Neill wrote that he had detonated the bomb, killing Ra and also destroying the Stargate on the other side. O'Neill reluctantly replies yes. Hammond finds that weird because the alien that came through the portal also had glowing eyes. As they delve into discussion, O'Neill was questioned further about the mission report, where he continued to answer yes, and that everybody on Abydos should be dead, including Jackson, and that the portal also should be closed. As they go down to the portal room, General Hammond revealed that he wanted to send a second bomb in just to make sure the portal is closed. O'Neill expresses reluctance about the proposed course of action. Conflicted, he eventually reveals the truth about the unresolved situation on the other side, revealing that he did detonate the bomb killing Ra, but did not destroy the portal on the other side, and that Daniel Jackson still lives there with the people on that planet, and his orders was to bury the portal so no one else could use it. Hammond still wanted to send a bomb in, just to make sure, while O'Neill argues there's still innocent people on that planet. In a heated discussion, O'Neill got sent to the Holy Ground, where he meets a previous soldier he served with. They catch up and reminisce about the past. Hammond comes through the door, inquiring about how many people are still left on Abydos. O'Neill replies there are still 5,000 people left and suggests that he should take a team through the portal and find out what happened and where those Jaffa came from. Hammond agrees and starts to discuss what their next move is, and if they should send a probe to scout the area. In a surprising turn, O'Neill grabbed a tissue box and headed to the portal room, leaving the others perplexed. With a creative solution in mind, he tossed the tissue box into the portal, and after a while of waiting, the tissue box comes back with the message saying, "Thanks, send more," confirming Daniel Jackson's survival. Eager to act, O'Neill sought permission to embark on a mission through the Stargate, setting the stage for the next chapter of their adventure. In the briefing room before the mission, O'Neill was introduced to his new scientist on the team, Major Samantha Carter. Reluctantly agreeing to take her on the team, they were tasked with bringing Daniel Jackson back and making sure there were no other threats to Earth. O'Neill pushes Carter through the portal, and together they embark. O'Neill and his team exits the portal and starts to look around, while Carter feels like she's gonna throw up. They start noticing signs of life around the portal room, and all of a sudden, they got surrounded by people aiming guns at them. Daniel Jackson pops out and tells them they're friendly and to lower their guns. O'Neill recognizes Jackson and tells his men to lower their guns. He asked why he's here, to which O'Neill replied that there's been an attack on a portal on Earth. Jackson said that the guys didn't come from here, but can help them figure out who it was and where they came from after the sandstorm had passed, and invites them back. While enjoying the meal and tasting some moonshine, Jackson informed O'Neill that the guys that attacked the portal on Earth could have come from somewhere else. O'Neill was surprised because he thought there was only 2 portals, which prompted Jackson to disclose further. After a passionate kiss with his wife, Jackson leaves the portal room with O'Neill and his team. In the next scene, Daniel leads O'Neill's team to the pyramids, where he shows them a secret room covered with hieroglyphs. He's been able to figure out the symbols are a vast map, meaning a network of stargates all over the galaxy.
With that, they conclude
the aliens could have come from anywhere in the galaxy. Back at the portal room, they're eating their food when suddenly the portal activates and everybody quickly arms up and gets into position. Out of the Stargate came more Jaffa, and they started shooting instantly. The soldiers together with the civilians all fight back, but they take heavy casualties and eventually gets beaten. Shari and Skara try to escape, but get caught by the Jaffa. The commander appears saying he found a perfect specimen while using some alien technology on Skara. He also comments that Shari could be the one and takes them both back into the Stargate. An injured soldier sees all this. O'Neill and Jackson arrive back at the Stargate, where they find the aftermath of what just happened. While speaking with one of the injured people, he tells them in his last breath it was a Jaffa and they took Shari and Skara. While assessing the damage, they find a soldier that is still awake. O'Neill orders Jackson to come with them to the portal back to Earth, so they can save the soldier's life and figure out how they can get the hostages back. Jackson gathers the villagers and tells them the story of how the ancient Egyptians got themselves off from Ra. He tells them if he's not back in 1 year, they should bury the Stargate, just like the ancient Egyptians did, and never use it again. After they all embrace for the last time, Jackson activates the Stargate and they go through to arrive back on Earth. When arriving on Earth, O'Neill reports to Hammond, revealing the attack on the base camp. At this point, Jackson introduces himself and says he wants to be in the next mission. Hammond just shrugs him off and goes to assess the damage. In the next scene, a Jaffa warrior enters a prison cell where Shari and Skara is held, alongside other villagers. One of the Jaffa points out Shari. While soldiers try to grab her, Skara tries to stop them, but to no avail. She gets taken while Skara sits sobbing at the gates of the prison. As O'Neill was leaving his shift for the day, he spots Jackson in the hallway and invites him back to his place for a beer. There, Jackson talks about his experience on the planet after O'Neill left, how the people viewed him as a savior for freeing them from Ra. He continues to talk about how good of a life he had there and how beautiful his wife is. Jackson asks about how O'Neill's life has been after he returned and how his wife is doing. O'Neill reveals that his wife has left him after the death of his son. She could only forgive him, but not forget. On a different planet, a Jaffa walks into a room full of well-dressed women. After looking for a while, he points out the blonde woman from the first attack on Earth. They take her with force while she pleads for her life. Shari and the rest of the women look scared. They take her to the commander. He uses his brace whilst his soldiers undress her to make her ready for the ceremony. She gets laid down on the table while the commander summons his queen. The queen comes over and out of her emerges a symbiote to inspect the specimen on the table. She is not satisfied and goes back into her human host. The commander continues to kill the woman and tells the Jaffa to send another one. He looks in disgust. Back in the briefing room, O'Neill is informed the president has called for a formation of 9 SG teams, whose job is to perform reconnaissance, establish of any threats, and if possible, make peaceful contact with other worlds. The mission will be top secret, and his unit will be designed SG1. Suddenly, one of the surviving soldiers of the base camp attack wakes up and identifies the 7 symbols of the Stargate, which will lead them right where the attackers went. SG1 and 2 get ready for the new mission. Before leaving, Hammond tells them they have 24 hours, otherwise they will close the portal for good. The SG team, along with their supplies, venture through the Stargate. With a heavy landing, they arrive at a new planet and set up camp close by. At Ra's palace, Shari was chosen for the next ceremony. She was laying down on a table, and the queen approached. But this time, the symbiote within seemed to like Shari. A Jaffa looked in disgust while Shari screamed as the symbiote entered her from the neck, making her her new human host. Back at base camp, the SG teams decide to split up, with one team fortifying the base camp and the other team continuing on with scouting. While scouting, SG1 encounters a group of villagers walking in the forest. Despite the language barrier, as soon as Jackson mentioned the Stargate, they bowed down to them, thinking they were gods. The villagers continued to show their town. There, the team was greeted with a great feast. Suddenly, the sound of a horn went off, and they all bowed down. The commander came out with his Jaffa to introduce his new queen, Shari, embedded with the symbiote. Jackson saw this and tried to communicate with his wife, Shari, thinking she would still recognize him. The Queen glowed her eyes while the commander used his brace to push Jackson away. The Queen got in the way of O'Neill's shot as he gets knocked out by a Jaffa. Back at SG Command, Hammond is worried about the SG team's return and is informed there's only 2 hours left of the mission deadline. The team woke up in a prison cell, reuniting with Skara and some villagers. While discussing a plan of escape, one Jaffa warrior grabbed O'Neill's hand, inquiring about the watch. Jackson told him it's Earth technology and continued to draw the Stargate symbol of Earth. The Jaffa quickly brushed away the drawing and left the prison cell. Back at base camp, it was getting late. One of the soldiers from SG2 argued they should go back to the portal because there's 2 hours left, which then their leader replies they will leave no man behind. As O'Neill tried to devise a plan of escape, Jackson informs Carter that Ra is in fact dead, and this is another fake god called Apophis. As they were talking, he arrived with his queen and Jaffa warriors. They all nervously watched as they were picking up their next victim to use as hosts for the symbiotes. Jackson pulls through and asks while pleading if there's anything left of the host after the symbiote takes over. A Jaffa shook his head, indicating no. They choose Skara as the next host and drag him to the side. O'Neill tries to intervene but quickly gets knocked over the head. Apophis is satisfied and orders his Jaffa to eliminate the rest of the prisoners and proceeds to leave. As they were getting ready to shoot, O'Neill pleaded with one of the Jaffa to help him save these prisoners. In an intense turn of event, the Jaffa turned around and shot his own and quickly gave a weapon to O'Neill. Together, they eliminated the Jaffa and chased away the rest. O'Neill turned around and quickly blasted a hole through the prison wall, while everyone escaped through the hole. O'Neill noticed that the Jaffa that was helping them standing there and urged him to join them, saying he can crash at his house for this. He agreed and told him his name is Teal'c and that his friend that was taken should be at the Stargate, so if they hurry, they should be able to catch him. Hammond gets visibly nervous as he gets told there's only 1 hour remaining of the mission deadline. Teal'c explains that he's a Jaffa and that he is made to serve. He continues to show them the symbiote living within him. It's called a Gaul, and he's had it since he was a child, like all Jaffa. It gives him perfect health and long life, and if he was to remove it, he would die in a short time. To which O'Neill replies jokingly he would have taken those chances if he was him. At the Stargate, a ship beamed down Apophis alongside his queen and some Jaffa. While being pinned down by an alien fighter jet, O'Neill and Teal'c tried to take it out with their blasters, managing to damage it slightly. Apophis activates the portal. He watches as his fighter jet gets taken out by the second SG teams and retreats into the Stargate. They all scream in celebration. O'Neill found out that Skara is still at the Stargate and hurried over there. Skara sees O'Neill and turns around to confront him. He gave him a grim look and glowed his eyes whilst blasting him back with his bracelet, revealing Skara has been taken over by a symbiote. O'Neill could only watch while Skara goes through the Stargate. With little time left, O'Neill ordered Jackson to dial up the portal back to Earth while he and the rest will hold off the attackers. The soldiers engage in a fierce battle with the Jaffa. Under heavy fire, people start going through the portal. On the other side, when Carter arrives with the first refugees, she tells the SG command to hold their fire. The battle endured while the SG command helped the last civilian go through the portal. They start getting swarmed while retreating. A symbiote attaches himself to the sergeant of SG2. O'Neill picked up the last of his men and went through the portal. Then Carter ordered the portal to be closed. Hammond comes over to inquire about all these people and the Jaffa. Carter told him the refugees need a place to stay before they send them back, while O'Neill explained that the Jaffa's name is Teal'c and he saved his life and he would also recommend him to the SG1 squad. O'Neill noticed the sergeant of SG2 is in some sort of discomfort and asks if he's okay, to which he replies yes. Hammond tells O'Neill this will be an interesting debriefing for SG1 and 2. Jackson looks into the portal, worried about his wife, while O'Neill reassures him that everything will be okay and they will find her. The scene closes with the sergeant of SG2 standing in the background with glowing eyes.